I'm Danielle Hawley, the Dean of Howard University School of Law. I've been the Dean of the Law School since 2014, so this is my 9th year at Howard. Before I went into teaching, I was in civil litigation. I worked for a big law firm, and I worked on antitrust and securities cases. Probably the biggest thing, only 5% of lawyers in the United States are Black, and only about 2.5% of all lawyers in the United States are Black women. So often I would walk into the room and I would be the only one, sometimes the only woman. Not a lot of women practice antitrust and securities law in Houston, Texas. So often I would be the only woman in the room, and many times I was the only person of color in the room. So I had to learn very quickly to not let people underestimate me, to be confident, to let things roll off my back a lot. There are a lot of things that people say and do that if you allow it to kind of get under your skin, it can really hurt your ability to perform. As a leader of one of the schools and colleges here at Howard, my top priority is excellence. I want to make sure that my students are receiving an excellent legal education, that my faculty are producing excellent scholarship, and that my staff are able to perform at their highest level. And so that means establishing the conditions for excellence, having very high standards for everyone, including students in the classroom, and giving faculty the resources that they need to be able to do their scholarship in a meaningful way. So I think advocacy for our students is very important. I think it starts with strong communication with students and faculty and staff, the entire community, about what are your priorities. So one of the first things that I wanted to do as a leader when I got here to Howard was to establish a strategic plan for the law school. I felt that it was important that everyone know what direction we were rowing in. The reason that I teach every year, and I teach first years, so I think of the 8 years I've been here at Howard, I've taught first year students at the law school probably 6 of those years. And I do it because I like to get to know students as their professor and not as their dean. When we talk about social justice, I think social justice can mean a lot of things. Some people fight in the area of environmental law, other people are taking on income inequality. For me, it's always been education, because I think education is a building block, is one of the most important things to our democracy. So having a well-educated populace is critical to the health of our democracy, and it's also critical to communities being independent and powerful. So that's really at the heart of most of my scholarship, because I believe that educational equity is one of the most important kind of civil rights, social justice, racial justice issues that we have. And we're now starting back at the basics. It's hard to believe that in 2022, in the United States of America, that a woman does not have a federal constitutional right to her own ability to make decisions about her pregnancy. And so I think that shows that we are in a we're really at a crisis point for women's rights in this country. And it will take activism, it's going to take litigation, it's going to take the ballot box for us to get a lot of those rights back. And so we just have to train women and train men who are deeply invested in the idea that women are equal citizens of the United States and equal citizens of every country in the world, and that this isn't just a matter of our rights here in the United States, but of our human rights, and that we have to have a country that respects the basic human rights of women. And it's our job as leaders to train our students to believe in those rights and to promote those rights and to secure those rights. So I think some of the challenges that are faced by women in leadership is a lot of times we are underestimated. People think that we don't know a lot, especially about areas that are traditionally thought of as dominated by men. So Howard has a tremendous history of leadership for women out in the world that people are seeing. And I think what it means is just that we have to embrace and promote that as one of the central legacies of the university. I think all I want other women to understand is that everything is possible. Every door can be open to you. I think as women, many times we won't claim the things that we want. So when people ask, You know, do you think that you should be on a short list for the Supreme Court? Or do you think that you can lead something? Often as women, we'll say no, right? We'll go, oh no, not me, you know, and we'll be very humble. I think what many women, you know, what we as women need to do more is just to say what we believe that we are capable of. Because so often, if we don't say it first, no one else will believe it. I think mentorship is probably the most important building block to leadership. Something that has been incredibly important for my career is doing very intentional fellowship programs that have helped with mentorship. So I was an American Council on Education Fellow, I'm an Aspen Global Leadership Fellow, and both of those programs have helped me tremendously. I think the other thing is that our networks sometimes are not as strong. So men may have a easier time finding mentors, etc. So for women, we have to look for mentors, both male and female mentors, who can really help us on our journey to leadership. I think the key lesson that I learn every day is more and more humility. That I have so much to learn from my students. It's important to listen. I think that I probably now, as I have been in academic leadership more than a decade now, I probably listen a lot more today than I did 5 or 6 years ago. I find that the more that I listen, the better I lead. It's one thing I would want my 20-year-old self to know about leadership is that anything that you want to master takes time. And so at every stage of my career, it has been, you know, a learning curve. There's an uphill climb to becoming really good at something. It's a day-to-day process. I tell my students all the time that there's no way there but through. You have to take the steps, you have to walk the steps that are necessary to learning everything that you can, and then what you learn, hopefully to teach other people and to get better. Be patient, it takes time. Every part of your career will be different. Enjoy yourself. I think there's so much seriousness. I hope that my legacy is that I made my institution, the law school at Howard, but also Howard University, a little bit better through my work. So I definitely want that to be my legacy. My top 3 leadership values are honesty, transparency, and collaboration. I think it's really important for all people who want to be in leadership, but especially women, to understand what are our values and what makes us want to lead. And when we get into leadership, what are the values that we want to promote? Collaboration, I think, is one of the strongest leadership values we can promote because it allows us as leaders not to lead from in front, but to lead together with everyone who we are in community with. And that kind of community spirit is what makes our institutions better, what makes our students stronger, and what makes them the leaders of the future. I think for future generations, vision is really important. This generation of students, this generation of leaders, they have a lot to take on. Everything from climate change to income inequality to racial injustice to gender discrimination. I see young leaders as being people who are deeply committed to seeing the world be a better place and are willing to take the necessary steps, whether it is being out in the street and protesting, or whether it's filing lawsuits, or whether it is working in community to help build those communities from the ground up. All of those things make me feel very confident for the future that the generation of leaders that we're producing right now have the skills, the talents, and the commitment that they need to make a dramatically positive impact in the world.